Whether we like it or not, cultural stereotypes do exist, and their impact on romantic relationships can be profound.
I don't think I encountered many of the sort of stereotypes regarding Asians so much when I was younger. It was more when I was older. One time I was at work and I was talking to my co-workers and I was saying how I'd met this lovely Asian girl and you know, it was really great. And it was just, I was a bit stunned by what the first thing was said was, "Oh, I bet she goes off like a firecracker in the sack."
Meanwhile, in Hong Kong, English expat Richard discovered that some stereotypes are very positive.
I remember one particular occasion inviting her up for a rooftop party. And then she was there for a while, and when she left, you know, everyone was talking about it, all my mates saying, "Oh, who was that? Oh, wow, she's gorgeous," you know. So really there was an understanding already among the circle of friends in Hong Kong that the Asian ladies and Chinese ladies are you know, very attractive.
Although we like to think that stereotypes no longer have currency in our increasingly interconnected world, it's clear that cultural differences do still apply when it comes to romance.
Western men are more expressive. So Chinese men, they hide. We're sort of more subtle in expressing our emotions and love. So they might love you deeply and do everything he can for the family as a whole, but it's not very often he will say, "I love you."
I think the Chinese people are very shy in the public to show their affections to each other. I think I belong to that kind of category. So we very seldomly kiss in the public, even though I think for the first few years we did kiss in public,
in the
right?
public? Where?
In the public,
outside, like
you know,
in front of people? No.
Yeah, we've said goodbye to each other, you know, when we go to work and things like that. Yeah, we do. Yeah, but they have a lot of people, you know, turning around and have a look.
He was such a gentleman then, I have to say, because he wasn't pushy or anything like that. I saw him as a gentleman.
Okay.
Westerners are very tactile, but the Chinese aren't. They present their emotions and their feelings and sincerity through other mediums, so even learning those, but
yeah, we're more subtle in terms of express our feelings, our emotions. You know, try to hide it in the heart and do things, little things to show their love, their care.
I think there might be a stereotype that, you know, maybe Asian guys are seen as having more, you know, traditional values where they'll, you know, treat the woman like a princess and put her up on a pedestal and, you know, shout her dinner and da-da-da-da-da. But even if that was the case, it wouldn't work with me because I'm not that kind of girl. You know, I like things to be more, you know, fair and we'll go Dutch and and all that kind of stuff. A little bit of, you know, give and take.
Unlike Ting, who grew up in multicultural Melbourne, Dawn grew up in mainland China, where her view on men and romance in the West was driven more by hearsay than experience.
I have been taught Western people are not serious about relationship, love and marriage, and there was a high rate of divorce and sexual disease and AIDS.
In the West, traditional attitudes to sex and relationships have been changing since the 1950s. For many Chinese, Western sexuality is often more confronting than enticing.
And Chinese people are probably just think, oh, you know, in the West they have a high divorce rate, but they haven't seen the marriage quality in the West. The marriage quality is much better in the West than marriage in China. In China, of course, now, okay, they have a low divorce rate, but if you look at the quality of the marriage, that's not, you know, it's not good.
Communication is critical in any relationship, but for cross-cultural couples, the need for clear lines of communication is even greater.
You can't take for granted anything, you know. If you're in a relationship with another Westerner, you would assume that a certain behaviour or the lack of a certain behaviour would be giving you an indication of something, an evidence of a good behaviour or a bad behaviour, but it's quite the opposite here. You can't assume that.
At the time, actually, I didn't really know much about different cultures because, you know, Czech at the time, it's just Czech people and some Vietnamese, but you don't really have any contact with them. It's not like in Australia. So I didn't know there is any difference whatsoever. And I didn't actually expect him that he's going to be behaving exactly the same way, or probably like the Czechs do, same kind of behavior. And I mean, that's something that we just started to discover when we really lived together.
A lot of people put a lot of weight on cultural differences as being, you know, having an impact on relationships. But an even more powerful impact can be whether you've got one personality who's very dominant and one who's very unassertive. So the non-assertive person, no matter what culture they're from, that can cause a problem because you've got an inequality.
And the funny thing is that when she went back home and talked to her parents about me, you know, say how wonderful I was and all of that, you know, her mother's reaction is, be careful. Like maybe, you know, human trafficking is involved in this, so don't trust anybody yet.
For all of the frequently negative stereotypes, there remains something undeniably erotic about the exotic.
I think there is something a little bit exotic about dating, you know, the other or someone who's not from the same ethnic background.
I thought that he's definitely exotic, very exotic look.
And yet there's also a lot of Western men that looking for something that's a little bit different than they can find in their own country. Enjoying the fact that the ladies in China are a little bit more traditional in the roles that they look. They're happy to have the man being the head of the household. They're happy to work together with the man to make a new life.
It's difficult to talk about gender roles in relationships because we can have same-sex relationships and we can have obviously heterosexual relationships, and you know, there is a common sort of feeling often that women can end up being more subservient, for example, to a male, but a lot of that is changing and we're really seeing a shift of women becoming quite assertive. There are more and more women, for example, who are bullying in the workplace. There are more and more women who will actually attack. So women are getting much stronger, but in certain cultures there will be an acceptance that a woman is more subservient.
For Rob Thompson, who runs several interracial dating sites, differing cultural beliefs about gender can definitely create problems for potential couples.
One of the typical stereotypes of, in particular, Asian wife, Caucasian male relationships is, I guess, the subserviency of the Asian wife, which is a very big stereotype that Caucasian men have.
I would do majority of the cooking just because Alex thinks that I cook better than he does. So he'll try to do more of the, you know, washing up of the dishes and some other general house chores. And I think from that experience, you know, moving to our own home together now, it's definitely, you know, sort of similar. You know, whatever we're better at, we tend to do more of.
If the Caucasian man, for instance, has a certain expectation and that's not being met, then that can certainly cause some friction in the relationship. Obviously, that'll probably come out once they start to spend more time together and, in particular, living together.
Coming up next, we break out of the bedroom and into the piggy bank.